guys, gals, non-binary pals, and everyone in between. I am the captain of the World Masters Guild and upon the Fervent Drift. I hope we are all having a fantabulous evening. I think we in need of... No, most of you know me and know my background. I'll do a quick rundown. Anywho, so for those that don't know, I have been a GM for about 13 years. I've spent about 25,000 hours in the TTRPG sphere. That's playing, writing, designing, running, and just generally being involved with the TTRPG world, as it were. So I've experienced it all, from bad GMs to bad players to questionable decisions of my own, let's say. And I have been called out a few times for my own decisions. So it's all a learning curve, especially in those early days. How is everyone doing? Are we all good? Give me a thumbs up if we're all doing good. Amazing, amazing. Wonderful, wonderful. So, obviously, tonight's workshop is going to be about player management and managing those particularly problematic players that we all come across once in a while. A lot of people will say the minute you have a problematic player, make them leave. In some instances, that is the right thing to do, but I don't believe it's the right instance all the time. And there's several reasons for this. Sometimes what can be considered a problem player is neurodivergence. It could be, it could be a brand new player, someone who's brand new to the TTRPG space and actually doesn't really know what they're meant to be doing and has had no real guidance on the etiquettes and things like that. It could just be somebody who's unaware of their own behaviour and just needs a little bit of coaching. So there's any number of reasons why zero tolerance policies can be a bad thing, because you can actually do yourself a disservice, especially with some of the things we're going to go over tonight, because they can absolutely be the golden star at the table at the same time as, and it just depends on how you view that particular type of player. Is there any particular type people would like me to go over first off to begin with? I see Dares. Dares, I knew you wouldn't let me down. You wouldn't let me sit here in silence. You watch, it's going to be the most unhelpful comment now, just because I said something. Don't forget, guys, we will be doing a general Q&A right at the very end as well, so you can also put your questions there. But at the moment, we're just talking about specific player types. Players who, as their characters, engage in unnecessarily cruel actions that make everyone at the table uncomfortable. Oh, this is an interesting one. And I say it's interesting because one of my earlier characters, who occasionally pops up as an NPC, one of my earlier characters, Kanitas, was often described a little bit war dogs. So at this time, I was very much... I wasn't brand new, but I was still very fresh. I was like a freshly cooked lasagna, ready to go, but it still needed a bit of seasoning. This particular character would do things like cut off an NPC's ear and then magically heal it back on. as an interrogation tactic. Now, as their characters engage in unnecessarily cruel actions. So what I would say here is, first off, there would be min-maxing was one I was going to come to in a bit, Cole. So unnecessarily cruel. So this is one that definitely is a session 0 discussion. You know, what is and isn't acceptable at the table. Now, a lot of the times we would think, you know, oh, common sense will prevail. It doesn't always. Sometimes people want to play those kind of really cruel and sadistic characters. Those kinds of characters are normally better suited for an evil-themed campaign, like an evilly aligned campaign. Especially ones where, you know, the expectation is that they will be cruel. But if it's like a normal lawful campaign, I feel like a sit down and a conversation to start with, and I would do it as a table, not targeting the individual per se, if you can help it, you know, and just say, right, okay guys, some things happened last week, and I feel like it's fair to say that a fair few of us were a little bit uncomfortable. Can we please try and keep, you know, certain actions either behind lines and veils, or, you know, try and play as the heroes, if that's the story you want to tell. Definitely an open discussion at the table for that one. I don't think it's, you know, it's necessarily one that's gonna throw anybody a curveball. It's not gonna feel like anybody's being ganged up upon. Following that, if it sort of continues, then you need to have that one-on-one with that player. You know, you need to say to them, look, this behaviour is making people uncomfortable. You are crossing people's boundaries, people's lines, and, you know, you're not giving people a sensation of, you know, I want to play with you. And if that is the case and people are genuinely starting to feel that way, you need to curb it quickly, because what's going to end up happening is the players that aren't causing a problem are going to be leaving, and you're going to be stuck with only the problem player. So it definitely needs a conversation, and, you know, from my perspective, the way I run games, especially as a professional dungeon master, I look at it this way. I don't care about their money. I don't care about any individual's money coming through to my bank account. If it is making people unsafe, uncomfortable and unhappy, and these behaviours have been addressed and been spoken about, and it's still cropping up time and time again, I no longer care. Please leave my table. I would much rather I have a table of 6 to 7 gloriously, wonderfully engaged players than have one person in that group who's ruining it for everyone, and then the whole table breaks apart. Excuse me. Min-maxing, let's talk about it. So, min-maxing has a bit of a bad rep. Pardon me. Namely because it's often seen as players gaming the system. They are gaming the rules to give themselves an advantage here, there and everywhere. Min-maxing isn't a bad thing for the right GM and the right group. Where is it a problem? If you have a inexperienced party and one experienced player who is going to min-max and going to if you have a player who's going to min-max and, you know, absolutely run over the rest of the party, okay, that's fine. But then you need to find a way that you can challenge that individual player whilst simultaneously offering the same level of challenge relative to their skill level to the rest of the party. Now, this can appear as finding a way to separate the party. It can be a sudden loss of power somehow. Say for example, they're playing a wizard. Okay, let's really challenge that. Let's challenge that aspect. You enter into the dungeon and you notice these small crystals dotted around. As you look at your hands, you feel a weakness to your magic. And this is, and they give them a way in that they have no other way in or out of this place, or that, it's actually a really scary thing. So the way you deal with min-maxers at the table is, thank you DS Star Uwu. Where was I? Lost train of thought. ADHD brain. So, you find ways that challenge that specific character whilst also not hindering the rest of the party too much. If you've got a wizard with high intelligence, high wisdom, high charisma, start throwing things like strength saving throws at them, dexterity saving throws at them, and let them get creative with their character's weaknesses. Whereas on the flip side, the rest of the party, the fighters, the monks, even to an extent the druids, they're not going to have such a hard time with those physical stats. D-Star Uwu said on Twitch, I think min-maxing can also be quite problematic for the DM if they don't know how to handle it. This is why we are hosting this seminar in the Discord. Please feel free to come and join the discussion, Uwu, on discord.gg/World Masters Guild. We'd be more than happy to have you. We are in the community stage, and thank you for tuning into the Twitch as well. Players who steal the spotlight. So there's a term for this, and that is spotlight hogs. Spotlight hogs are the ones who interject themselves into every story, every player's story, and every, they want to be the star of the show. Main character energy, as the youth of today would say. So, where was I? Yeah. So these players, again, they don't necessarily have to be a hindrance to the party. They don't have to be a hindrance to the background. They don't have to be a hindrance to you as a GM. You can utilise their enthusiasm. And again, all of these problems can be really simple things like neurodivergence, not understanding social norms. It can be inexperience at a table of D&D players, especially when it comes to online gaming. Online gaming is one of the most frustrating places for this sort of thing to occur, because people could just be trying to get their ideas out, and it comes across as spotlight hogging because the rest of the party at the table are too afraid to speak out and go, actually no, I want to do. So we have to be really, really careful how we analyse what is and isn't a spotlight hog. Again, they're not somebody who is innately at the front of the party, but they are somebody who, when it's somebody else's turn, somebody else's story arc, and they start interjecting themselves into that character's backstory without being invited. And there's two ways to handle this. There really is two ways to handle this. Say, for example, you're having a roleplay scene with one of the new members of your party, a new member at the table, and you're having that roleplay scene too. Introduce their character and everything else, and the spotlight hog's getting irritated, trying to jump in every 5 minutes. Okay, thank you. Just let us do this, and then we will come back to you in a couple of minutes. And that's an in-game way of handling it. It's not rude, it's not impolite, but it's very direct of, okay, I've seen you. I appreciate your enthusiasm right now. Right now we are doing this, and we'll come to you in just a second. It gets around the issue of constantly trying to jump into the front of the party. If after your sort of little oh, I just need to check something there. D-Star, I'm going to invite you to the actual server that's in the Twitch here. There you go. Oh. There we go. Bear with me, guys. I will be back. D-Star, on the actual stream, discord.gg/World Masters Guild. If you type that in to search for a server, the fake Discord link is there for a reason, because it stops art bots, basically. That's why I put it in the stream. Please do come join the conversation, though. Where was I saying? Oh, yeah. Spotlight Hogs. The people that are really enthusiastic and can accidentally take over a conversation, they can be managed just with a very, very simple, oh, yeah, no, thank you very much. You know, I appreciate you, but we are doing this right now. If it persists over the course of a session and you repeatedly have to keep doing this, then a quiet conversation at the end of the session. Hey man, I love your enthusiasm. It's so wonderful to see you want to interact in that way with my games, but can we please just take a little bit of a step back, have a deep breath, and allow others to step forward into the limelight where it's relevant and where it's important to that player and that character, to give them their time to talk and their time to act. Again, you have leader characters. You have people who come in and join, and they are a leader. Now, these leaders of the party, they're not necessarily spotlight hogs, but they are the ones that the party naturally gravitates towards to actually bring the party forward. Even if that player isn't intending their character to be a leader, sometimes it just happens. It just occurs, and there's, not much to do about it. But that's not a spotlight hog. That's somebody who the party has unconsciously chosen to lead them forwards. The last thing I want to say on this, again, neurodivergence awareness. Be aware of who the players are at your table. Because if they are neurodivergent, if they are autistic, if they are ADHD, if they have any number of neurodivergencies or learning difficulties or personality disorders, it can lead them to be more pushy, more forward, more blunt, more open. Have a conversation with your players. Understand who your players are. Have they divulged to you, or have you asked if they have any kind of neurodivergence? Because understanding the reasons behind what they're doing is more important than understanding what they're doing. You want the why, not the what. Because if the why explains it, you don't have a problem. If it is a simple neurodivergence, and again, it is irritating to keep having to repeat yourself and say, no, we're just doing this. We're just doing this at the moment. Eventually, people can be trained. Now, it's not our job as Dungeon Masters to train players on etiquette, but it is our job to make our spaces as accessible and as welcoming as possible, understanding the challenges of things like neurodivergence and what they bring. Yeah, exactly, Winter. Exactly. it is a case of training and learning. Because again, for autism, for ADHD, we don't understand boundaries. We don't understand societal norms, and we don't understand waiting your turn. But what we do understand is if you have a direct conversation with us, you explain to us exactly in fine detail what you need from us to be sat at your table, we will most likely oblige. We spent our entire lives masking for societal norms. Sitting at a table where we're meant to be pretending to be someone else anyway is not going to hurt our egos. About picking the darkness spell as a warlock, combine that with the devil's sight implication, but I don't think that would be very fun for the other players. So, D-Star, I mean, this goes back to min-maxing, really. I was thinking about picking the darkness spell as a warlock and combine that with the devil's sight invocation, but I don't think that would be very fun for the other players. Therefore, I'm choosing not to, or using the spell more defensively. You can be more clever. You don't have to go, right, I'm casting darkness on myself, and then nobody can see but me. Because that isn't fun for everyone. Might be funny for the first couple of times you do it, but it's not going to be fun as a repeated thing. What you can do, however, ask your GM, is there a way I can sneak behind the enemy? Ask your GM, is there a way that I can shuffle past unseen? You know, ask your GM, is there a back door to this warehouse that we're trying to break into? Okay, you guys go in the front. I cast darkness on myself. The darkness is going to bleed through the walls. The enemies now just see a big ball of black coming around the side of the wall. Like, they're not looking at the front door anymore. They're distracted. Orb is broken. AF 10 out of 10. Chromatic orb isn't broken. It's not broken. It's just a rebalancing. So remember, guys, with the 2024 rules, they have rebalanced it so that in the early levels, the wizards aren't so outpaced by the martial classes, and vice versa, that in the later games, the martial classes aren't as outmatched by the spellcasting classes, and it's a much smaller gap. That's one of the reasons why they buffed Chromatic Orb. Players that metagame. Now, what do we mean by metagame? I'll explain what it actually means in a minute, but I want to see what your guys' understanding of metagaming is. I think I might just be doing hands up in a minute. Long answers be long. Hey Winter, what is your definition of metagaming?
Hello. My opinion would be that metagaming is so much of when your character, as your character, you take actions that, based on the information you currently have access, wouldn't make much sense for you to actually do so. For example, if you have information IRL, but your character doesn't have that information, and they make a decision that would only be logical with that information, and I think that might be it. one meaning of it at least.
Yes and no. But thank you
Right.
very much. I'm going to send you back down to the seats.
Yes, please. Thank you.
If I can work out how to do that. How do we do that? Is it this? Winter, if you look down at the bottom of the stage, you should see a look. There we go. There we go. Thank you, Winter. So I have seen one first level bounce 3 times and do 98, and our assassin doing 3d6. That is why I had it. It's not, because again, it's a low level spell. It's a level 1 spell, and they can only really do it twice per long rest. So, you know, unless they're a warlock. If they're a warlock, they can do it twice per short rest. Need me to mod for you? Not. I mean, you can mod for me, Des. Obviously, that's always helpful. Any more. So, J-Rod said, for me, it's thinking outside of the box instead of thinking through your character. Like, how does your character know if this creature has X, Y, Z vulnerabilities or immunities? Is this correct? Okay. What metagaming is and what metagaming isn't. Metagaming isn't casting silvery barbs on a death saving throw, for example. It's not granting bless to one of your downed characters to give them a D4 to their death saving throw. It's not healing. If you are a healer, it's not healing a downed character until you see they've made 2 failed saving throws and thinking, that's alright, they've still got time. It's using outside game knowledge and outside game awareness in order to grant yourself an advantage in combat. Now, where with what Winter said, it was slightly on point and slightly off point. I'm going to have to recall this now. It was something along the lines about taking action that would make no sense for your character. Sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes, even in real life, people get a hunch. They get a suspicion. They get, something in their mind that goes, hang on a minute, something's not right here, I want to try something. And it's not necessarily a completely out of the ballpark thing to try. Just a lucky guess kind of situation. Where that might apply is, say for example, you have a locked door. There is, a sequence of keys dotted around. And the player has somehow been given the information of which key it is outside of the game. And they go back to the next session and they're like, yeah, it's that one. But why is it that one? Oh no, I just know it's that one. Like, you kind of spoil the whole puzzle for the rest of the party by doing that. It's using that outside knowledge. Now, again, using the downed character as an example, how many of us, and me included in this, as a healer, have you waited until until a character has made 2 failed death saving throws before you actually heal them up? I've done it, and I know loads and loads and loads of others that have done it. And it's that is metagaming. But nobody recognises it as such. Because in character, you don't know how dead that person is on the floor. Just like in real life, we see someone collapse on the floor. We don't know if they've just dropped down dead or if they've just had, an epileptic seizure or something of that kind. That is still serious, but it's not actually completely gone. We can actually rescue them. Yeah, Yes, dear star. So waiting until a player is like on that last death save to go, do you know what, actually? There you go. And yeah, Winter, I agree with you. I prefer to heal immediately after my allies go down if I'm not healing them before they go down. And again, this is why I've implemented the exhaustion rules in my game. And feel free, GMs, to use this for your campaigns. That if a character goes down, they gain a point of exhaustion. It gets very painful very, very quickly for characters with the new exhaustion rules to go down. And so your healers, your clerics, your druids, even to an extent your paladins and rangers, will go, oh crap, we need to heal if they are low. We can't heal them if they go down. We need to heal them before they hit. Zero, Pathfinder has the dying and wounded conditions. Yeah. So yeah, that's metagaming in a nutshell. It's using outside information, information that is completely outside of the game, to grant you that advantage. It's reading ahead in a campaign module. It's reading the monsters your GM's using in the monster manual, and acting accordingly every single time. It's not so bad if they go, can I make a nature check to look for any weaknesses? Can I make a survival check to see if there's anything hiding around here? Those kinds of things make more sense, especially if you're in a dangerous area. So it's good and bad that I'm playing on 2014 rule set where exhaustion isn't applied right away. D-Star, it's a homebrew rule of mine. I apply it to my 2014 games as well. But it's a homebrew rule of mine where if a character goes down, they gain a point of exhaustion. And this puts more pressure on the party to keep them all up at the same time. And it's fun, especially when you get sort of parties of 6, 7, and 8. Because then you've got 2 or 3 healers running around the map, like cure wounds, healing word, touch on the hands. Okay. Interrupting players. Not quite as bad as the Spotlight Hogs, because again, Spotlight Hogs can be encouraged to kind of bring the party forward and fall into that sort of leadership role and learn how to tame themselves and hold themselves back when they get that bubbling urge in their stomach to just burst. Interruptions from players that slow down the game to an intolerable level. I would perhaps ask for some clarification, though I do think I know what you mean, but I would like some clarification. If you could give me an example there, James, I would love to hear it. Discard is very hard with interruptions. It's certainly a skill. It's a skill to be sure to manage. And knowing when to come in and when to go out. And that is actually one of the more difficult jobs of the GM, especially on an online table, is to make sure everybody is getting that airtime. I should use this rule in my next campaign, whether I will run another campaign. Don't want to implement it in the middle of my current one. J-Rod, what I would say to you, if you want to implement something in the middle of a game, like implementing a new homebrew rule or a new idea or a new gimmick, there's no reason you can't. But what I would say to you is ask your players and say, hey guys, I've got this really interesting thing I want to try out. Would you mind if we tried it for a couple of sessions, and then we'll decide if it's working or not, and if it's problematic or not. Just be warned that adding this rule in does actually up the difficulty level of your campaign slightly, because it means, the healers have to be more aware of party members before they hit the floor. And the 2024 exhaustion rules are brutal. They are so brutal in comparison to 2014 rules. No, Don't do it without asking the players, but always, ask the players. See if they'd be up for trying it. I've done it a couple of times. I've gone, hey guys, I really want to try this new mechanic, but I'm not sure if it's going to work for us. So do you mind if we try it for a couple of sessions and then we'll have a discussion whether or not it's working? Yeah, precisely. If it doesn't work, you can always leave it behind. I was thinking this how I would do it was ask the players before, just simply get their input. Yeah, and also the players can say no. It gives the players a chance to say, actually, I'm not comfortable with this. I don't like this idea. I'd rather we didn't. And then you just go with that. Fuck. Ooh. A couple of nasty blisters on the back of my feet. I'm wearing really woolly socks. It's just got caught on all the gunk. Nice. A middle of the scene with the DM or player, for example, player X not waiting to put their opinion in on a mechanic or story point, with it constantly occurring over multiple sessions. In the middle of the scene with the DM or player X not waiting to put their opinion in on or story point with it constantly occurring over multiple sessions. So is this James, sorry. Can I bring you up for a minute, James? Can you just jump up for a second? If you click if you click down the bottom of the screen, James, there should be a request to speak button. There you go. Oh, there we are. You are muted at the minute. You need to unmute yourself, bud.
Oh, there we go. I'm driving at the minute, so I'll have to be quick. Yeah.
That's right.
Just to explain it properly, it's just to say, you're in a session, 5 or 6 players, obviously, or whatever the group party size is. DM's explaining a scene or explaining sort of a rule point or whatever. Player X jumps in, interrupting that or interrupting the scene that's being described with a point that he wanted to make, and not waiting for a sentence to be finished, if that makes sense, or sort of waiting for whatever's happening to play out and then going, oh, well, actually, can that then not, once people are done speaking, like just constantly interrupting, if that makes sense?
Yeah, so if they're merely saying, like, when this is done, can I give my input? That's really easy. That's yeah, no problem. Just give us a minute. If it is a constant kind of, you're describing the scene and they go, they've not let you finish describing the scene, they're already asking questions about the scene. That is, again, just right, can you just give me a second? And we'll, if I don't give you the information you're looking for, we can roll for it or we can do whatever. If it is interruptions in the form of role-playing, say they're having a one-on-one conversation with another NPC, like player A and this NPC are having a conversation, player B comes along and starts interjecting in that conversation, and they do this every time there's a one-on-one conversation going on. That is a conversation that needs to be had about, I love your enthusiasm, I love where you're going with this, but we need to have a discussion about the way in which you are managing this, because it's not working for the rest of the group, and I don't want to lose you as a player. I value you because of X, Y, and Z. However, it's causing an issue, and we need to address that issue. And just have a conversation with them and see, again, are they neurodivergent? Are they autistic? Are they ADHD? Is it excitement? Is it just a sheer lack of boundaries, and you need to reinforce that boundary with them and say, right, okay, I will bring you intermittently into the conversations or into the role play.
Yeah.
Just to try and protect you as the player from getting any backlash from the rest of the group. You know,
Got you.
sometimes people need that kind of invitation boundary, and it's called an invitation boundary because you're saying to them, I want you to talk, but I want you to talk invited. If you're interrupting, you're going to upset people. If you're invited, you are welcome. And it's kind of almost like a reverse psychology thing of going, you know, you can talk when you're invited to speak. Please don't just interrupt people randomly. If you have something you want to say, just wait a minute, let the conversation run its course. Or, you know, if it is urgent in that moment that you want to say something, perhaps type it out in a message. Type it out up in your virtual tabletop. One of the things my players love to do between scenes, you know, say I'm having a one-to-one with one of the players, they'll have a full-scale conversation going on in the chat.
That's cool.
Almost like a play-by-post alongside the actual roleplay, which is incredible. You know, so there are things that can be done, and things a way around it. But yeah, I'll let you drop back down. And again,
Amazing. How do I do that? Can you knock me back down just with his driving?
I don't know if I can. That's what I was just oh, there you go. I'm not sure you did that. Oh, you got him. Wonderful. Thank you. I think I've just found the button as well. I had a GM who introduced homebrew mechanics mid-campaign without talking with us, and it destroyed the campaign. Yeah, absolutely. It's a break of trust. I'm trying to think if there was absentees. That was another one I was going to cover. So, I am fairly strict with my absence policies. Not in as much as, you know, if you miss X sessions, you're automatically out the game. But more with notification. I don't accept that there is no reason, or there are very few reasons why, if you're not going to make a session, you cannot notify me 24 hours in advance. Most things you have planned, or are planned around. If you message me the day of and say, oh, this person has told me we're going out today and I can't get out of it, okay, I appreciate that, your friend, your spouse, whatever, but you understand that this game is also a commitment, because it's a commitment to 6 other people. Myself and the 5 other players. That is the commitment that you make. There are obviously extenuating circumstances from time to time that can't be avoided. Last minute hospital trips, sickness, you know, caring responsibilities, childcare responsibilities. There are a list of things that are amenable, but 9 times out of 10 things can be planned around. You know, if someone's inviting you to an event or something and you know we're playing D&D, I have no issue you going to that event over D&D. Life is short, live it whilst you can. But there's also no reason you can't notify me 2 or 3 days in advance, because these things normally take planning. So if they are a no-show, I will normally reach out to them the day after and go, hey, look, I've sent you the invoice, because again, I'm PGM, sent you the invoice. If you let me know what's going on, I'll see if I can help you out. Because not notifying me is one of the worst things my players can do, because it delays the start of the game, because I normally give people an extra 15-20 minutes to get there if people are running late before we start. And, you know, we're waiting and waiting and waiting, they just don't turn up, they don't send me a message or whatever else. I'm going to be more pissed with them. I'd rather they just be upfront and say, hey, look, sorry, last minute thing, I completely forgot about the game. and I've made other arrangements. Okay, fine. Yes, I'll be annoyed. Nowhere near as annoyed if you don't just not message me. So I come down harder on these types of people that are flagrant with other people's time. Remember, everyone's time is valuable. In the grand scheme of things, our lives are short. So time is very, very precious to everyone, and we want to spend as much of it living and laughing as much as we can. And if you are disrespectful to other people's time, then you have no value in them. And these are the kinds of players that, yes, you can give a warning to. You can say, look, in future, notify me 24 hours in advance. Next time it happens, you won't have a second chance. And it can get people's backs up. It can really get people's backs up when you say this to them. But again, it's a level of disrespect. They know it's disrespectful and they're doing it anyway. And you as a GM are not there to be people's timekeepers. You are there to run a game and provide a service to your players, whether it's paid or unpaid. Those are really fun to be a part of. Sometimes I want to roleplay, but I don't want to disrupt the session. What have I missed? What was that comment to? Winter? Oh, text RP aside in the actual game. Oh, no, that's fine. Yeah. Yeah. It's really, really good fun with my players. I'm having a roleplay moment, and we'll come to the end of the scene, and I'll just read the screen on the side and go, okay, you guys are now going to have to either explain to me or roleplay out everything that has just happened in the side chat, because I've completely missed it. But it does mean the players get more screen time for themselves, and it's a good use of their time. Not a DM, just trying my best to understand the position of a DM to become a better player. The last 3 years of being part of an adventure as a player, there have been 2 instances where I got sick that day, so I didn't really have a choice. But yeah, again, D-Star, sickness happens, life happens. I have 4 children. My children come first above most things, and even though this is my income, if they need me, Daddy's there. Life happens, and life is shit sometimes, but we press on and we work our ways through it. Embrace them. J-Rod, especially as a new GM, how should a DM deal with a rules lawyer if they get one in their game? Absolutely embrace the living hell out of them. Because they'll remind you or point out rules you weren't even aware of. And when you look back on it, you go, oh shit, I can utilise this. So, again, rules lawyers, there's 2 types. There's the really helpful type who say, hey, I'm just letting you know, if that's how you want to go about it, that's fine, but the actual rules as written is this. Excuse me. And again, those, they are a dime a dozen. They are fantastic little shining stars in the night sky. If they are the rules lawyer who is using the rules to try and circumvent the rule of cool, or they are trying to use the rules to garner an advantage in some way, or trying to bend the rules in some way, it's really, really simple. You point out that Rule 0 applies above everything else. and you just say to them, hey, look, this is how I'm going to run it here. If you want to have a discussion about that later, we can absolutely have a discussion about it later. But right now, in the middle of the game, this is what I'm ruling it as. This is what's happening. Rule zeros, sit your bum down. And, you know, again, these are the rules lawyers that are trying to use it to gain an advantage over their GM, over the sake of the story. They don't care about the story, they care about the mechanics, and they should go and play Pathfinder. Not hating on Pathfinder either, by the way. I love Pathfinder as a system. It's just, that is a game for rules lawyers everywhere. D&D is very, very much more freeform. Yeah, and J-Rod, if it gets to a point where it's actually disrupting the session, you can just say to them, look, if I get things wrong, I don't mind you pointing them out to me, but could you do it in like a private message, or could you do it after the session, just so that we can keep the flow of the game. Pathfinder 2. Pathfinder 2nd edition does. Yeah, D&D is a game which Pathfinder is the half stuff. No, I'll tell you what is the hard stuff, Winter. And you're not going to believe this, but there is a system that is far more crunchy than Pathfinder. There is a far, far crunchier system than the Pathfinder games. Pokemon Tabletop United. Have a look at that rules book, and my god, it is insane. The rule book itself is about 500 pages, A4 pages. Like, the book is that thick when I printed it. And the that's not including the Pokedex. That's not including all the stats and the attacks and everything else for Pokemon. Yeah. But this is the thing, like, D&D has its place amongst, you know, there are so many homebrew rules you can use to enhance your games out there that if you want to do something, it's probably already been done. Go and find it and see how it worked for those people. And so guys, we are, and you are entitled to your opinion, and I am entitled to my own, and I'm of the opinion that your opinion sucks. So guys, we are coming to the end very, very quickly, so we're going to have some quick fire questions. Quick fire questions for the last sort of 10-15 minutes. So if you have a question you would like to ask, please stick your hand up and I'll do my best to answer it. If you wish to type it or prefer to type it, you can do so and I will try and get round to it. But do not be shy to come up onto the stage so I'm not up here on my own, killing my voice. Which I already have done. Oh, and I'm out of water. Wonderful. The cast increase of the mage hand cantrip when you take the time. You can't upcast a cantrip. Oh, the feet. I'd have to look it up to go into that one. But yeah, there is a difference. Rules as written and rules as intended. Players who want to make their character work, but the DM refuses to contribute because it would be unfair. This is a more like player DM dynamic. So I've had games where, mechanically speaking and on a mechanical level, certain things didn't make sense to have in the game. Whether that's species, magic, types of magic. Sorry, I've got a bit of a sore throat now. So, prime example. One of my homebrew rules is that resurrection magic, specifically, is reserved for high-level NPCs and extremely rare magical items, usually not found until the late game. This is because I don't want to hear 50 times a day, "Can I have a diamond, please? Can we find a diamond? I want to go buy a diamond. Where is a diamond? Is there a diamond nearby? Blah, blah, blah. I want to go find a diamond." Cool, great. You go find a diamond, and then they hold on to it for the entirety of the campaign. I've had that happen. So, I basically said, right, resurrection magic is reserved for high-level NPCs and extremely rare magical items only, and it works really, really well. Again, it makes death that much more terrifying. Because yes, death is never the end in my games, as Des will attest to. Des has had several characters fall under my guise. However, you know, having resurrection magic as early as it's available in D&D with such a small cost in retrospect, even with components and everything else taken into account, it defeats the purpose of death. It defeats the mortality of death and actually punches great big plot holes in certain story arcs. How would I handle... Major Hand says that if it's more than 30 feet away, it vanishes. Telekinetic feet says if you have... Target pressure by 30 feet. Now there's a difference between the feat description and the cantrip description. So it's intended... Yeah, so basically what it means is that if it moves more than 60 feet away from you, it vanishes instead of the 30 feet. It basically just adds the extra 30 feet on. How would you handle in-battle communication? So, there is no hard and fast rule, and each GM will do this differently. Remembering that each round of combat, not each turn in combat, each round of combat is meant to be 6 seconds. Okay? What I tend to do is have a roleplay token in the combat tracker at the very, very top of the combat. So the players get a chance to roleplay, and the NPCs can roleplay with the players or whatever else in that moment. And then the rest of the combat, the rest of the turns carry on as normal, and that conversation is basically going on at the same time as the rest of the combat is, as the rest of that turn is going on. No, that's okay, D Star. I try to do at least one a month. At least once a month. Also, D Star, you need to hit the follow button on the TikTok and then go follow on the Twitch and then go follow all the other ones as well. I saw the highlight on TikTok. Right, let's explain this, okay? I saw the highlight on TikTok where the player said something funny in the snowy forest. I died laughing during my lunch break. So that was at the very, very start of one of the Christmas one-shots. And they had basically openly said to me they wanted to play the Seven Dwarves. That's fine. I had no problem with them playing the Disney Seven Dwarves. I thought that was funny. It would be hilarious. Let's go with it. Then during the week, they conspired against me because I had designed the one-shot around their characters, around these dwarves that they all wanted to play. And I thought, that gives me plenty of ideas to prep on how to introduce them and all the rest of it. No. Instead, they decided that at the very last minute, and when I say last minute, I mean at the very start of that one-shot, they were all going to change their mind and move from playing dwarves to Disney princesses, which confused the hell out of me for the longest time. And then I saw what was happening, and I was dying laughing inside, but I was dying inside as well. That should still be on Twitch as well. Yeah, that will still be on Twitch now, that episode. Go and watch it before it fades. I think that was the part 2 of the Christmas special. Do I have a VODs channel? So I have recently started up Streamlabs Ultimate again. So I will be streaming directly to YouTube. It's on, most of our videos are on YouTube. I just haven't uploaded any of the more recent stuff up there, like the Christmas one-shots or anything. I should probably get on that, to be honest. Otherwise, our marketing team is going to be shooting me. But yeah, there's VODs on Twitch. There are VODs on Twitch, they're just only 30 days. One of them's in here. Our engagement and promo officer. Right, are there any more questions around TTRPGs, D&Ds, encounter you ran and what's happened? Oh, that's a question. Because I don't really do funny when it comes to combat. I suppose one of the most entertaining combats would... So yeah, one of the most... Actually, I'll tell you what. It was funny, but it wasn't funny at the time. It's funny to look back on. So, I normally run a BBEG every 5 levels. Of some kind. There's some form of BBEG at the end of each 5-level curve. And this particular party had spent a few days in this they'd spent the last few sessions in this town doing some digging around, and they came up against this warlock by the end of it. They were level 5. They came up against this warlock, and they cast Hold Person. Now, he had a relatively good wisdom score. At level, comparative to a level 5 party, his wisdom score was something like a +5. He couldn't roll above a bloody 10 to save his life. And so he spent the entire combat under Hold Person, to the point where I gave up the combat and went, do you know what, guys, how are you going to kill this guy? Because there was no way he would have been able to recuperate after the beating that he took. Where you are more able to create more opportunities for the humorist rather than trying to force it into her. Yeah. Comedy is definitely a skill, and writing comedy is even harder. But, that's not to say we don't have our funny moments, but those moments have to be very, very well timed and very, very well thought out so that they don't ruin the flow of the game, because a poorly timed joke can actually destroy a campaign. For me, comedy is more... The things I find more funny in comedy are when... they're the moments of when things go wrong. And I was looking through my clips the other night, and there's some clips on there from a few years ago now. Many, many moons ago. And there was one, I was playing with a group, and there's these couple of young girls in there. I say young girls, they weren't young girls, but a couple of girls in there. A couple of women in there. And she had a bottle in her hand and a drink. And she went, before we do that, I would just like to... She drops the drink and goes, fuck. Bear with me 2 seconds, guys. I'll be right back. My little one's crying. Need to find some moisturiser for my hands. Oh, sorry about that, guys. Just a lost stomach, that's all. So, before I tie everything up, is there any other questions that we want to ask or that people might have? Feel free to jump up into the conversation up here if you'd like to. Offer is going once. Invite to speak. Hey, Winter. You're muted. Hello? We now can't hear you. Why can't we hear you?
I
There we
had pushed to talk enabled. Sorry for that.
That's all right.
So you're offering for any last questions?
Yep.
What do you think of players when they try to figure out what they're going to do for party composition? How do you feel about that? I think can be a good thing and sometimes a not inherently so good thing, but is rarely a terrible thing.
So, for me personally, the way I view it is that the GM has the job of balancing encounters and balancing the campaign and designing the campaign around the group of characters that they have. This means that if 6 rogues want to play a roguelike campaign, go for it. Bring 6 rogues along, and we will have that style of campaign together. All campaigns can be adapted to suit different party compositions. It's just all down to the GM working out how to do that right. The thing I say, I don't mind parties working out a composition that they want to play. That's not a problem. You want to play 2 tanks, 2 healers, 2 DPS? Go for it. However, what I say to my players is play what you would like, because your characters don't know the future events in their lives. So they don't know who they're going to run into 5 years down the line. Does that make sense? So I try and encourage players to play what they want despite composition being slightly off, because I go, well, that's for me to deal with. That's for me to then present the relevant challenges for your characters. Make them shine where they shine. Make them, struggle where they will struggle.
I did also have one last question.
Yeah, go for it.
Determining the difference between what is a red flag and what is just more of a normal behavior. So whether or not you think as a DM, whether or not you should be considered for something, or like whether or not it's a cause for concern. There are some things that are more intuitive, but some things are less intuitive.
Are we talking from a GM perspective or from a player perspective?
Yeah. So like, if you're like, there are some things your players might do that maybe you're not sure if you should be concerned or should. Like, obviously you can talk about it, but it's not always so intuitive.
Yeah, so I personally don't like the term red flag. It is one of my bugbears in the modern age, is people going, this is a red flag, that is a red flag, this is a red flag. Why?
Yeah.
It's a red flag
It's an overused term.
It's a red flag because you don't like it. It's not a red flag as a general rule, and it's not a cause for concern for the majority of people, just for you. For me, and I'm trying to think of a delicate way to put this without diving too far into politics. For me, a red flag would be how can I put this delicately?
The question was more so how to determine
Yes.
if you should be concerned.
Yeah. So the moment to be concerned about behaviours is the moment that that player stops addressing them. So if the GM is bringing up this issue with a player, and they work on it, they improve it, and then they slide back, and then they work on it, improve it, and slide back, that's expected. It's expected that people will fall back into old habits as long as they start catching themselves when it's pointed out to them. Otherwise, you are on the flip side of that. They just don't care. And if after sort of the second or third time, even if after the first time, you don't see any improvements whatsoever, then it's done, basically. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, mostly.
Yeah. It's basically looking for the red flag
Pattern
players.
recognition.
The red flag players are the ones that aren't willing to improve. They're not willing to take on critique and get extremely defensive when it's offered. As long as it is put across to them in an appropriate way and not in a way that is going to put someone's back up. You know, because if I turn around to one of my players and went, by the way, you're shit at roleplay, that's not helpful to them. That's just an attack. But if I say to them, you know, your roleplay needs some work, perhaps we can, you know, find 5 minutes and we'll do a quick 5-minute improv workshop to help you build up your repertoire of skills. You know, that is offering a solution to a noticeable problem.
That answers my question very well. Thank you. I'll go back down to the
That's alright.
stage.
Thank you for your question.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Is there a will to improve it? Yeah. Yeah, is there a will to improve their behaviour or not? Exactly. Exactly. Right, guys, that is all I have time for tonight, I'm afraid. Thank you, everyone, for stopping by. If you are watching live on the stream, don't forget, hit the follow buttons, hit the subscribe buttons, and all the other buttons that you can think to push on the stream there. My guys in the World Masters Guild, thank you very much for making tonight more of a success than previous ones have been. We've had a larger audience this evening, which has been lovely. The audience is growing slowly each time I do one of these. Until next time, folks, may all your 20s be natural. And as ever, I'll see you in the next one. Push all the buttons except your GM.